is Mike Levine for Audiofanzine. Welcome to this video review of Lethal from Lethal Audio, a new software synthesizer. What you were just listening to, with the exception of the drum loops, was completely made up of different sounds from Lethal. And it's a pretty cool synthesizer, so let's get right into this. Available for $199, this synth is a download only from the Lethal website. It comes in two pieces, the actual synth, which is a little over 11 megabytes, and the core library, which is almost 5 gigabytes. And of course it runs on Mac and PC and all the major formats. Now, Lethal is a rompler type synth. That means that it's sample based, but the samples are in ROM. You can't sample with it. Because it's a rompler, it's not as flexible as a sampler or other type of synthesizer, but Lethal's ROM-based samples sound excellent, and the synth has a ton of sound shaping tools, which kind of makes up for that. Now you access the presets, of which there are 1,200, organized over a range of categories from the Library tab, which opens by default when you open a new instance of Lethal. Lethal appears to be aimed at the electronic dance music market mainly, although it also has sounds that will be useful in a lot of other genres, but you see a lot of patches that are called house this or trance that or whatever, so you definitely get the sense, and from hearing the sounds, that this is a synth that's definitely has an EDM bent to it. So, before we go any further, let's take a quick listen to some of the sounds and we'll go by category. So let's start with leads. Now basses, of which there are a lot. Pads. The category Vox and FX not only has vocal samples, but it has some like effecty sounds like these uplifts. Keyboards. strings and harp. Guitars, I really like these a lot. And now the drums, which for me are kind of a mixed bag because there aren't a lot of kits in here. They're mostly patches that are spread over the whole keyboard. They call them kits, but they really aren't kits. They're just a bunch of kicks or a bunch of snares, etc. There's only a couple that actually have a full drum kit. And again, they're mostly geared towards EDM, but the sounds are very good. Now let's look at the patch editing tools. So there's amplitude envelope, adjust the attack, decay, sustain, release. You can adjust the LFO as well. Change the wave for it. Triangle there. And then the filter, adjusting the cutoff, the resonance. Choose a filter type. Now it is on bandpass. There's a drive control. Change the slope of the filter. Now let's go to the pitch envelope. You can change that. Attack, decay, sustain, release, and moving the amount really changes things. Of course, I can just totally change the pitch if I wanted to. Pretty cool. Okay, so we have a noise effect that you can put in. And then there's the unison effect, where you can set the number of voices and the detune. It's pretty dramatic. You can dial in the amount and the amount of voices. Next is vibrato. You can use negative or positive values. And then there's a stereo expansion. Make the much wider sound. Drive control. And shine, which appears to give you like a little more of a presency kind of EQ shot. And you can set it to create chords. There's a main level control. Poly and mono operation. Like here's a mono synth. There's glide control. One little helpful feature, when you're moving these graphic controls, adjusting the different parameters, if you control or command click, depending on if you're on a PC or Mac, on the parameter area, it'll bring it back to 0. So that's very useful. And for all these parameters on the left side of the screen here, you can also adjust the curve for the attack, the decay, and the release, which gives you additional options. The Arpeggiator is a very cool feature. It's available from this menu down at the bottom there, and you turn it on and off with that blue button, and you'll notice that I put the Logic's little MIDI keyboard up at the top there so you can see what notes are being played and contrast them with the sounds you're hearing from the Arpeggiator. So there's a bunch of pre-programmed patterns already there that you can switch between, or you can tweak and make your own. Goes from the simple to much more complex kind of sequency stuff. See, I'm just holding 2 notes on the keyboard there, and it's creating a very complex sequence. If you want to change pitches on the notes, you can just drag them up and down. Drag that one down and watch when it comes back around. And the shuffle control gives you kind of a swingy feel. The trance gate is another very cool feature. Basically, it's a rhythmic gate that allows you to syncopate the rhythms of what you're playing, and it makes it easy to create these sort of EDM style rhythms as well as other stuff, and it's totally programmable. You have a bunch of parameters, width, mix. The rate is in note values, rhythmic values, I should say. You can set the length of it. There's a lot of different parameters. Basically, it's a great way to take something that's kind of static and turn it into a very interesting pattern. Okay, let's look at the effects section. That's a very impressive part of Lethal. Here we have reverb. You can have up to 6 effects at a time. And there are presets for all the effects, although you can also do a lot of your own tweaking with the parameters provided. And you see there's also delay, chorus, phaser, distortion, equalizer, and bit crusher. So let's add a delay here. You can have a stereo delay, a mono delay, or a ping pong stereo delay. Plenty of parameter control, including low cut and high cut. You can set up some cool stereo effects. Now let's listen to the chorus. You have to definitely set this one gingerly to keep the pitch from getting bent too far, but it sounds really good once you get it set up. And the phaser, I really like the phaser. Sweet sounding phaser. And there's the distortion effect. Back it off a little there. Actually sounds quite good. And here's the equalizer. You get low gain, low cut, mid gain, high gain, and high cut, as well as both wet and dry controls, so you can kind of mix in as much of the EQ'd signal as you want, which is nice. And now the bit crusher. You can adjust how many bits there are in the signal. Get it really nasty sounding if you want. I really like Lethal. It sounds really good, and though it's not like a warm analog-y kind of sound, that's not the kind of synth it is, it has a lot of great sounds in it. It's crisp, it's clean, and there's a lot of variety. The effects are excellent. I could have used maybe a few more of them, but the ones that are there are really good, and they have most of the important ones. I love the trance gate. That is really awesome. The patterns included for the arpeggiator are also really good. The whole arpeggiator is really good. And although Lethal's ROM-based architecture makes it a little restricted programming-wise, it makes up for it with a lot of good sound shaping options. You can really get in and tweak. If you're into programming synths, there's a lot you can do in terms of the envelopes and the LFOs and so forth. There's just something very accessible about the way the synth is designed. I just took to it right away. I can't really put my finger on why that is, but it's very intuitive, and there's just something about it that's really well designed. I do have a few complaints. One, the price is maybe a little on the high side. I would have expected a synth like this to be more in the like 150, 175 range. And it's actually $199, but it's not ridiculously overpriced by any stretch. You're getting a lot, and it's a solid piece of software. Another complaint is that there's no PDF manual. I know manuals are kind of passé, but although almost everything is self-explanatory and it's a very intuitive GUI, there are some things that I would have liked to have been able to look up and couldn't. For example, I would like to have more detail about how to edit the trance gate. And I couldn't find that information anywhere. There are some videos on the Lethal site that are pretty detailed about the various sections of the synth, but you can't just look something up. If they don't give you the information you want, then you're not going to get it. And then there's also an FAQ section, but that mainly deals with installation issues and that kind of stuff. So it would have been nice to have a manual. Not a huge deal, but a quibble, I guess. I'd also like to see more instruments in like the real instrument categories. Would have loved to have seen an upright bass in the bass categories, and certainly more drum kits. But of course, Lethal will be offering expansion packs, and they will be free until June of 2017. So hopefully they'll be rounding out the collection some more. But for the musical styles the synth appears to be aimed at, that is EDM and other electronic styles, the sound set is quite well stocked. Overall, Lethal is well designed, very accessible, and excellent sounding. Good job by Lethal Audio. Pros and cons. Pros. Yeah. Excellent sound quality, very clean sounding. 5 GB sound library. Lots of sound shaping options. Programmable arpeggiator with useful presets. Programmable trance gate with useful presets. Excellent sounding effects. Easy to navigate GUI. Expansion packs will be free until June 2017. Excellent EDM-oriented features. Cons. A tad pricey. Rompler architecture somewhat limiting. No PDF manual. Not enough complete drum kits in drum section. Overall, I gave Lethal 4 stars out of 5. I was thinking of 3.5, but there's just something about this synth that is really inviting and makes you want to be creative. So because of that, even though there's a few things that I would like to see changed, overall, I think it's a great product, and I'm giving it a 4.